According to Google, death is the action or fact of dying or being killed, the end of the life of a person. But let me tell you, within the FNAF universe, death is definitely not the end. William Afton is basically just unfazed by death at this point. But in today's video, I think I can explain how the death of the original missing children and the journey of their spirits after could be used to explain and even elaborate on some of the things that we've discovered within the FNAF lore that's been coming out recently from other YouTubers. Now you may be wondering how I came to this conclusion or even this thought process. So it all begins when I was creating my beginner-friendly guide to the FNAF lore, and I was forced to listen to the Ultimate Custom Night death lines over and over and over again because I was trying to do a little bit of research on Cassidy's purgatory over Afton. And as I was listening to these death lines, I was starting to realize that there's a lot of really important lore implications from these lines that I feel we've kind of glossed over. Now before we continue, let's try to understand what Ultimate Custom Night really is at its core, because from a lore perspective, it is the result of Cassidy putting Afton in some form of a purgatory to torment him for his actions. I mean, this idea is literally nailed home like 50,000 times. Almost every single animatronic reiterates the point that this is the result of the one you should not have killed, meaning that Afton killed a specific person, and that person is the result of why Afton is trapped here. So we know that Afton is trapped here by Cassidy, who inhabits the Golden Freddy suit. But what about all the other animatronics? From a gameplay perspective, we know that Ultimate Custom Night was basically Scott's final challenge to the fans. It was his way of capping off the William Afton saga, and was his way of giving the fans one final goodbye. So can we really trust what we learned from these animatronics? I mean, it could have technically been considered a non-canon game, but I think we can, and I think a line from the puppet really does put some value into this game and what the animatronics say.
I recognize you, but I'm not afraid of you. Not anymore.
Because from this line, the puppet recognizes Afton, meaning that we can assume some of these animatronics may have retained their original memories and experiences. So let's first talk about how these suits and spirits became connected. I think it all begins in the FNAF 2 minigame where we play as the puppet and we give gifts and then we give life. The way this minigame works is there's 4 lifeless bodies and they don't move, they don't have anything. They just sit there. But as the puppet, we originally give them gifts and then put masks on their heads, which is essentially giving them life. I think this was Scott's way of saying that these bodies are lifeless. They're spirits with no form. But what happens is, by the puppet giving them life, it's connecting the suit with the spirit, therefore allowing the spirits to have control over the suit. A death line from Withered Bonnie in Ultimate Custom Night got me thinking.
What is this new prison? Is it me trapped, or is it you? Perhaps it's us both.
Because it seems in this line that Withered Bonnie is comparing the purgatory existence to being trapped in a previous prison before Ultimate Custom Night, which I'm going to assume is the animatronic suit. In the mind of a child, it might compare the fact that it's bound within this suit to being some form of a prison, not being able to be free and confined. Now it's time for the next part of their spirit journey, which actually relates to something you may have seen while recently scrolling on YouTube. Within the FNAF space recently, people have been trying to research and understand what Molten MCI is. To simplify it, it's basically an explanation of the events of how William Afton took parts of the original animatronics and melted them down into one remnant pile, and with that remnant pile, he injected it into the Funtime animatronics. And here is when the children face their true pain. Now because of this, the spirits become split and fragmented. They lose their individuality that they had before, because part of them is now in the original animatronics, and another part of them is now in the Funtime animatronics. It's so weak that it can't possess the animatronic, but it's forced to be a part of the animatronic, which is now carrying out William Afton's evil deeds. Now, as I explained earlier, there are still the spirits left behind on the parts that Afton didn't use. So what becomes of them? Well, according to ID's Fantasy, and I think this is the best theory that we have so far, Fazbear Entertainment uses these parts to refurbish and create these animatronics that we see in FNAF 1. And that's why they contain the spirits of the children, because they were built using the parts of the original suits that had the children's spirits, therefore meaning that they carried over and possessed these suits. So when William Afton returns later on to get more remnant at the now decommissioned FNAF 1 pizzeria, he starts to take apart these animatronic suits. He does this without realizing that by taking apart these suits, he would actually let the spirits free. And what do you know happens? The spirits corner him in a back room, he dies, he becomes Springtrap, and is now trapped in there for 30 years. However, this isn't the happy ending we want or expect. Because of the fact that they're split, they aren't free, they can't rest in peace. Part of their spirits are with the Funtime animatronics. This also explains why in FNAF 3, when Michael burns down Fazbear Frights, it doesn't really do anything. anything. Sure, he frees the parts of the spirits that are in that pizzeria, or what's left of it I should say, but as long as the Funtime animatronics exist, they can't find peace. Now as we know, the Funtime animatronics do escape their bunker in the form of Ennard, but as time goes on, Baby gets kicked out of the group and they become Molten Freddy. The spirits at this time, I assume, are just left to wander and watch. They can't do anything and they can't achieve peace or rest because of the fact that part of their spirit still lives on in Molten Freddy. But lucky for them, Molten Freddy is dealt with within Five Nights at Freddy's 6. Henry, the original business partner of Afton, uncovers what Afton did to the spirits of the children. He finds out that while any trace of the Funtime animatronics exists, these spirits will never achieve peace. So when he says that Afton robbed them of the only thing they ever had, he's probably talking about how even when they were in the original suits, if they were destroyed and they were burnt completely, they could achieve peace and rest. But because of Afton creating the Funtime animatronics, he stole that from them. So when Henry decides to create a fake pizzeria to trap Baby, Afton, Charlie, which is the puppet, which is now in Lefty, and Molten Freddy, he does it all to trap them and burn it. He tries to set their spirits free. Also, Michael is there as well, and he also gets burned, and his spirit is now let loose. However, an important question that I don't feel we ask enough is, does the spirit of the children go on to take place in Cassidy's torture plot to torment William Afton for all of eternity? Now let's take a look at the facts. Withered Bonnie gives us the line of this being a similar prison to one experienced prior, but besides that, the rest of his lines seem pretty typical and normal for a murder robot.
I may be missing my face, but even I could see his tongue.
The lines are meant to be funny and poke fun at the fact he's missing his face. There's nothing aware about the situation. But besides that, the lines are fun. They don't really share a connection to their spirits. Foxy, on the other hand, has no connection to the spirit. These are all just normal banter pirate lines. Nothing to show a connection with Foxy's original child that possessed his suit. Bonnie doesn't have any lines as Bonnie doesn't kill the player, so it seems that there's no connection between the spirits of the children and the animatronics we see in Ultimate Custom Night. So does this mean that there is no possession going on? That these spirits are not present in Ultimate Custom Night? No, I actually think there's one animatronic in Ultimate Custom Night that is possessed by their original spirit, and I think that it's the puppet. My reason for thinking that the spirit of Charlie, Henry's daughter, is here within Ultimate Custom Night is because of the lines the puppet gives us. Whenever the puppet kills the player, the puppet gives us lines and they all directly address Afton. But a lot of animatronics do this. It's just the way that the puppet does them that's just so different from everyone else.
The others are like animals, but I am very aware.
The other animatronics directly follow Cassidy's orders, but the puppet knows what this is, and the puppet knows that this is just all part of Cassidy's revenge plot. This could also confirm that Cassidy's prison that was made using Afton's own memories. Using Afton's memories, Cassidy could put together that Susie was the first to be killed, but Laura resembles to Afton what his wife was. It also explains how Cassidy could know that the Nightmare animatronics were made using illusion discs to torment his son. All of it could be constructed by Cassidy using Afton's own memory and experiences against him. But why and how is Cassidy using memories from Afton? This should be taking place in some sort of hell or purgatory, right? This is some life after death. Well, I don't think so. I think that this is taking place within Springtrap's mind, within William Afton's own head. Cassidy and Charlie have bound themselves to Afton's spirit, which resides in the Burntrap suit. The spirits of the children are not here, so the animatronics only give lines that faintly resemble them due to Cassidy using Afton's memories. And the puppet is here because Charlie and Cassidy have the strongest connection to Afton. Charlie may be helping Cassidy keep this prison alive because Charlie is afraid of what Afton could do if he got out and was revived. And I mean, in a general sense, whether you believe in MatPat basically stating that it could be Clara Afton who's reviving the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, or it could be someone like Mr. Burroughs who we see in the books, Afton could be technically one of the most valuable people in the entire world to talk to because he is someone who understands life and death. If you were trying to defeat death, Afton's research and knowledge concerning Remnant could be really helpful to you because he has the keys to possibly achieving eternal life. And listen to this, you know people have been recently trying to theorize that Princess Quest could carry a form of Cassidy trying to return to smite whatever is left of Afton, which is now Glitchtrap. Well, in the same way, people have been theorizing that Charlie is trying to do the same. Recently, FNAF came out with an amazing series of videos talking about how the Nightmare plushies we see, and Charlie's name being in the files, could be Steelwool trying to tell us that Charlie is trying to return in the same capacity. So what if Cassidy and Charlie trying to make their own returns to stop Glitchtrap actually frees Afton from their control? His mind and spirit are no longer bound by them, so it's technically free. He isn't controlled anymore, therefore meaning he could technically be revived with no issues by someone like Mrs. Afton. Now, is this a bold conclusion to come to? Absolutely. I can completely understand why some of you might think this is crazy, but just think about it for a second. I feel like my version of events kind of provides a seamless transition as to how Cassidy and Charlie could go from literally being dead and at rest to now suddenly back in the picture. Cassidy would return because Cassidy would want to smite anything having to do with Afton, while Charlie would return because Charlie is always trying to protect people from the influence of Afton, trying to preserve people's souls and keep them living. This does fit with both of their usual motives. Now, I know there's a Fazbear Fright story called The Man in Room 1280 that really does refer and explain more about how a soul could attach itself onto a living being, but sadly, I read that story forever ago when it first came out, and I don't own the book. So I don't want to make any further claims about it unless I have the book. However, if you do know more about the story, feel free to comment on how it affects my theory down below in the comment section. So just to recap, I believe that both Charlie and Cassidy are holding William Afton's mind and spirit prison in some form of stasis state within his own body. And now the only reason why William Afton is freed is because Cassidy decides to leave that prison to go take on Glitchtrap, and Charlie decides to leave because Charlie is committed to protecting anyone from the influence of Afton. Charlie kept the original missing children alive by putting their spirits and giving them life, and so Charlie would be willing to do that for any other children that could be affected by Afton, Glitchtrap, whatever form he chooses to take. So when someone, and that someone is someone that can be debated by FNAF theorists, when that person goes to try and revive Afton, there's no issues because Afton's freed. Cassidy has left him alone, and Charlie has left him alone, therefore meaning that Burntrap's possession and revival is possible. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, which was a retelling of the story of the spirits of the missing children, and also this FNAF mini theory that I kind of gave at the end. I hope you enjoyed it. I do want to preface, I am a theory first timer. This is my official first theory that I've ever come up with, but I do hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like on the video, consider subscribing, and also don't forget that I love reading your comments, so if you have any thoughts or any elaborations, leave them down below. I'll try to read them all.